Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep today into a piece of fan speculation that, honestly, it starts as a running joke.
Right.
A silly question that sounds, impossible on its face. But it ends up revealing some of the most profound and, frankly, devastating undercurrents of the entire Wizarding World narrative.
It really does.
We are asking the question, are Fred and George Weasley adopted?
It sounds shocking, doesn't it? And maybe even a little insulting to Molly Weasley.
Absolutely.
The immediate reaction from anyone who loves the series is just, no way. They are the quintessential red-headed, hand-me-down-wearing, troublemaking Weasley jokers.
Of course.
And to be absolutely clear, the core published narrative never once suggests the twins are anything other than the biological sons of Molly and Arthur.
Right. They are central. They are core. But here's the phenomenon we're diving into today. It's the power of a really compelling, if slightly, fringe theoretical framework. Once you plant this seemingly absurd joke premise in your head, suddenly these specific, slightly clumsy or inconsistent lines that you've read a dozen times they just leap off the page in a brand new, highly suggestive way.
Yeah.
It's like putting on a pair of glasses that show you the outlines of a hidden narrative.
Precisely. We are going to walk through several of these narrative inconsistencies and what we might call literary little winks.
I like that, little winks.
Yeah, and they suggest that even if they were adopted, perhaps by necessity following the First War, they are a perfect, chosen fit for the Weasley clan, red hair and all. We are exploring the unusual, slightly tangential place they occasionally seem to hold within the House of Weasley structure.
Especially in certain moments.
Exactly. Specifically in moments of, say, institutional pride or deep private fear.
And our mission, for you, the listener, is to act as a literary detective with us. We were taking this premise seriously to see if the clues hold up under scrutiny.
Right.
Our core question is this. Why do these two beloved central Weasley characters, the very life and soul of the family, seem to occasionally exist slightly outside the main biological flow, key emotional? Let's begin to find out.
Let's do it.
We have to start right where the theory found its footing, which is, it's arguably the strongest piece of evidence, despite it being just a single isolated text. We're talking about a moment of immense, chaotic family celebration in order of the...
We're in Chapter 9, a time when the whole family is already, they're just stressed out of their minds, living at Grimmauld Place.
Completely on edge.
And Ron has just received his prefect badge. And for Molly, this is a massive victory, a sign that the chaos hasn't completely consumed her children.
So Ron holds up that badge, and Molly, who is usually the picture of, maternal authority, she just loses it.
She is absolutely overcome with pride and relief that one of her younger sons is finally achieving something traditional and respectable.
Something Percy would have done.
Exactly, something Percy would have done. And she lets out this shriek of joy. The text says it sounds just like Hermione when she's excited about something.
Right.
And she yells the now famous line, "Oh, Ron, how wonderful! A prefect, that's everyone in the family."
And here is the initial gut check for us, the readers who know the Weasley roster by heart. That statement is a glaring, really weird mistake for Molly to make.
It's an astronomical omission, isn't it? Let's count the children who were Weasleys at birth.
Let's do it.
There's Bill, Charlie, Percy, Fred, George, Ron, and Ginny, 7 children. Bill, Charlie, and Percy were all prefects.
Correct.
Ginny wasn't old enough to have been a prefect yet in that moment, but the twins, Fred and George, were already well past the age of consideration and never received one.
So when Molly says that's everyone in the family, she is drawing a lineage line that includes Bill, Percy, and now Ron, but explicitly excludes Fred and George.
The two 17-year-olds standing right there in the room.
Who were standing right there.
And the immediate classic George response shows that they pick up on this omission instant. He replies, in that perfect, slightly wounded but joking tone, "and I next-door neighbors." He calls out the strange familial exclusion immediately.
Okay, but wait, let me push back on that. Because you're asking us to stake a massive, tragic theory on what could easily be explained as Molly Weasley being a highly stressed mother of 7.
Right.
Under pressure, living in a dark house with a dangerous secret society who simply chose her words poorly in a fit of...
Slip of the tongue.
Exactly. Could she just be referencing the children who followed the traditional school path? Isn't that the simplest explanation?
And that's the critical question we have to grapple with. Is it just a careless verbal slip, or is it a subconscious distinction, a Freudian slip? To figure that out, we have to look at the context surrounding the slip. The twins weren't just sitting there twiddling their thumb. They had just achieved their own significant magical accomplishment. Just days before.
Oh, that's a great point.
They passed their apparition test.
That's right. Harry even noted he could hear them celebrating and was annoyed by them constantly, disapparating and reapparating around the house, flexing their new skill.
So on the one hand, Fred and George have a very practical, highly skilled, magical accomplishment that demonstrates maturity and ability.
A ministry-approved accomplishment, no less.
On the other, they have failed to achieve a traditional, institutional accomplishment, the prefect band. And Molly chooses to celebrate the latter by declaring the family line complete and explicitly excluding the twin, despite their...
It's a moment that suggests she is defining family accomplishment in a way that, whether accidentally or subconscious, excludes the twins from the primary lineage.
She is celebrating the successes that align with her internal vision of what a good Weasley son.
A vision that the twins, with their penchant for chaos, entrepreneurship, and rule-breaking, have already broken.
Exactly. And the text itself emphasizes Molly's high emotional stress at this time. We must connect this prefect incident directly to the surrounding context because the scene takes place in Chapter 9 of Order of the Phoenix.
Which is
literally titled The Woes of Mrs. Weasley.
The chapter title is practically a narrative warning. It sets the stage for maximum emotional vulnerability.
And it leads directly into the profoundly revealing Boggart. Molly is clearly dealing with extreme anxiety due to the resurgence of the war, the danger to her husband.
And having the highly volatile Order of the Phoenix headquarters in her.
Right. She encounters a Boggart that has been trapped in a desk by Mad-Eye Moody, and she decides to handle it herself rather than ask anyone for help, keeping her deepest fears private.
And when Harry stumbles upon her, she is truly broke, sobbing uncontrollably. The Boggart has taken the shape of her single word.
The death of her family member, one after the other. It's a literal manifestation of her greatest anxiety.
And here is the crucial, fascinating detail that absolutely reframes the prefect image.
This is where it gets really interesting.
When we list the people the Boggart cycles, the people whose loss Molly fears above all else, the list includes Ron, Bill,
the twins, Fred and George Percy, and, crucially, Harry.
The Boggart does include the twins, so let's synthesize that contradiction. Molly loves and cares deeply about Fred and George. She fears their death and their loss intensely, clearly equating their value to that of her son.
No question.
Yet, when referring to the primary institutional achievements of her birth family, she manages to leave them out. It's a disconnect between her emotional bonds, and her conceptual understanding of their lineage, which seems subtle.
And the contradiction only deepens when we look at Harry's role in that Boggart. Harry is very much included in the people she sees dead. He is included in her circle of deepest biological level love and fear.
And we know Harry is definitively not her birth son. But we also know exactly where Molly stands on that distinction. She states it fiercely just 4 chapters prior to this.
When Sirius
challenges her parental role, saying, "He's not your son," to which she responds,
He's as good as. That quote is the key. Molly draws a clear distinction. Love transcends biology.
Yeah.
She includes those she sees as good as son, Harry, in her deepest fears, and she clearly loves the twins immensely.
Yet she still makes the slip regarding everyone in the family when referring specifically to the achievements tied to her birth family line.
The lines of deep, protective love and institutional birth-based pride seem to cross only in that one accidental moment of the prefect announcement.
Okay, that establishes a pattern of Freudian slips when discussing lineage and accomplishment. So let's go way back. Let's go to the very first time we, the readers, ever meet Fred and George.
The train station scene.
King's Cross.
One of the most beloved introduction scenes in all of literature.
It is. And the dialogue we're about to reference is usually interpreted as classic, lighthearted introductory mischief.
For sure.
Molly is trying to send them through the barrier at platform 9 and 34. The dialogue is, "Fred, you Nick."
And he replies, "He's not Fred, I am. Honestly, woman, you call yourself our mother."
That line, "Honestly, woman, you call yourself our mother," is usually just a fantastic joke, right? It sets up their entire dynamic as pranksters who delight in confusing authority, even their own mother.
Of course.
But the reinterpretation through the lens of this adoption theory is suddenly, it's much less funny. Their opening lines become a subtle, dark, literary nod to the fact they are adopted, or at least that they know they are different. The massive irony is that they are joking about her not being their mother because she got them mixed up, when in fact, the joke holds a deeper, unexpected truth that she is not their biological mother, regardless of how much.
It lands differently now, doesn't it?
It really does.
It does. It moves from playful mischief to a kind of existential, albeit unaware, joke about their identity. And this thread of ironic kinship runs throughout their dialogue.
There's another one, isn't there?
Yes. The text, in Order of the Phoenix, highlights another line before the Quidditch match. Fred observes Ron practicing and says Ron might yet make them proud.
And that they were seriously considering admitting that he was really them.
a relation they claim to have been trying to deny for 4 years.
That is the classic twin humor denying the obvious relationship with a sibling they love. But if we follow the theory that they are adopted, the irony multiplies again.
Because if the Weasleys adopted the twins from a relative, say, a cousin or a sibling of Molly's, they would still be related to Ron, biologically.
Just as a cousin rather than a brother.
Exactly. Their denial of the relationship would be a joke layered upon a half-truth, because their kinship is complicated, not non-existent.
So on the micro level, we have 3 instant dialogue: the prefix slip, King's Cross joke, and the kinship. That all suggest a subconscious or ironic separation from the immediate core Weasley lineage.
Even though the emotional bond is absolute.
Yes.
Exactly. But we want to take this seriously. We need to answer the biggest question. Why? Why would Molly and Arthur adopt 2 children when they already had 5 of their own?
We have to move beyond Freudian slips and establish the thematic and historical context. If the micro evidence is compelling, the macro context of the Wizarding World Wars provides the realistic reason for such an adoption. We need to shift gears now and talk about the necessity of found families during times of conflict.
The simple truth is that the 2 Wizarding Wars, particularly the first one that led to Voldemort's initial downfall, created immense disruption and tragedy.
Especially among the families who opposed him directly.
Like the members of the Order of the Phoenix. The practice of taking in children who had been orphaned was not just a kindness, it was a societal necessity.
It was an unavoidable part of the conflict. The war didn't just target adults, it dismantled families entirely. And the text gives us several clear, heartbreaking examples of this hard times reality played out across the main character's life.
I mean, think about Neville Longbottom.
Right.
His parents were not killed, but tortured into irreversible insanity by death, so Neville was raised by his grandmother. His story is a direct testament to the fact that war created gaps in parenthood that extended family members had to fill.
And Teddy Lupin, orphaned by the Second War, was raised by his grandmother, Andromeda Tonks.
And of course, the most famous example is Harry himself. Orphaned by Voldemort, he was sent to live with the Dursleys.
But the text makes it clear that many other families, particularly those connected to the Order, would have been honored and delighted to raise him as a son.
The fact that Dumbledore had to enforce the protective charm with the Dursleys shows how unusual Harry's specific placement was.
The critical point here is that the displacement and orphanhood caused by war was widespread. It wasn't isolated to just the Potters or the Longbottom. The Weasley, being strong members of the Order and fiercely protective of those in need.
They would have been exactly the type of family to absorb children orphaned by the conflict.
Especially if those children were already related to them.
It aligns perfectly with their demonstrated character and values.
Yeah.
They take in Harry, they house the entire Order in their home. Their sense of extended family responsibility is boundless.
It really is.
If they had family members who died in the fight against Voldemort, it's not just plausible, it's highly plausible they would have raised those children themselves.
And this leads us to the thematic core of the entire Harry Potter story. The conflict between love and acceptance versus simple, pure biology.
The entire series, from the moment Harry is protected by his mother's sacrifice, is structured around the idea that biology hardly matters when compared to love and acceptance.
This is the central philosophical battle against Lord Voldemort's ideology.
Absolutely. Voldemort preaches pure blood superiority, the idea that only a specific, perfect lineage is acceptable or capable of being great.
An ideology immediately exposed as hypocritical by his own existence as a half-blood son of a witch and a muggle father.
And the Weasleys, the Order of the Phoenix, and the alliances they form stand in direct opposition to found families and chosen bonds proved just as powerful, if not more so.
We see it everywhere. Sirius Black, a blood traitor, finding his true home and family with the Potters, despite being estranged from his biological.
The Marauders accepted Remus Lupin wholeheartedly, despite his lycanthropy.
And think about Luna Lovegood's bedroom ceiling.
Oh, that's a great one.
She didn't paint portraits of her biological relatives. She painted a visual depiction of her chosen family. Harry, Ron, Hermione, Neville, and Ginny all linked by a...
It's a powerful metaphor. The bonds you forge are stronger than the ones you inherit.
And Molly and Arthur are the embodiment of this acceptance. They take Harry in, treating him as good as a son. They extend fierce protection, advice, gifts, unending love.
So if they're willing to extend that level of fierce protection and love to an outsider like Harry, why wouldn't they have done the same for 2 biological nephews orphaned by the very war they were fighting?
The war that killed Molly's own brother.
Precisely.
Okay, I'm convinced the structural and thematic case for an adoption exists. The environment was ripe, and the character's morality. Here's where it gets realistic, though. We need to move past speculation.
Right.
If the twins were adopted, we need to identify the fic birth.
So the theory points directly at Molly's family line. The Prewett. They are the strongest candidates because they provide the necessary red hair, Order membership, and crucially, the initials.
The candidates are Molly's older brothers, Fabian and Gideon. Let's start with the most surface level, but oddly perseverant.
The names.
The names.
The connection most fans draw immediately is the simplest, almost cheeky reference. The names start with F and G, just like Fred and George.
It's a bit on the nose.
It is. But the idea is that the author, J.K. Rowling, created the twins' names not just as playful alliteration, but as a subtle, layered memorialization of their tragic, powerful Prewett uncle.
Let's spend a moment establishing just how important the Prewetts were to the Order, because the books rarely dwell on them, but when they do, they're incredibly strong.
We don't know much about Fabian and Gideon individually, but the text confirms key facts. They were both members of the original Order of the Phoenix.
And perhaps most importantly, they were legends.
They were powerful wizards. The text confirms they didn't go easy. It took 5 Death Eaters to finally kill them.
5.
Think about that for a moment. It took a quintet of Voldemort's most devoted followers to bring down these 2 brothers. That establishes them as forces to be reckoned with, and their deaths as a profound tragedy for the Order.
So the theory, grounded in these facts, is that one of Molly's brothers, Fabian or Gideon, had twin boys' wife.
And upon the death of both parents during the war, Molly and Arthur adopted the boys and raised them as their own, folding them seamlessly into the Weasley family.
It's a tragic but perfectly logical scenario for a couple who already valued family above all else.
However, this theory instantly runs into a massive point of textual contradiction that we have to address.
The Prewett heirloom discrepancy.
Yes.
This is the infamous moment right before Deathly Hallows start, when Harry turns 17. Molly gives Harry a golden watch that used to belong to her brother, Fabian.
A rite of passage, an adult gift.
But if Fabian Prewett is the twins' birth father, why on earth would Molly pass down his treasured heirloom to Harry, of all people, rather than to Fred or George?
It seems wildly insensitive, doesn't it? Perhaps even accidental proof that they aren't his son.
That's the challenge. It would seem like a gross oversight if they were Fabian's biological. But the answer, through the lens of chosen family, becomes incredibly elegant-matic.
Okay, so the watch, first of all, is a Prewett heirloom, not a Weasley one. It represents a different lineage.
Right.
Molly passes it to Harry, not because she values him over her other son, but because she views Harry as the ultimate symbol of chosen family. She passes the Prewett line's physical memory to Harry because he shares her experience of being chosen into the family rather than born, and echoing her earlier sentiment that Harry is as good as her son.
It becomes a gift given to recognize a shared adopted status. It reinforces the idea that she views Harry and implicitly the twins as part of her found family that transcends mere biology.
She is giving the heirloom to the son she chose rather than the son she adopted.
That's an incredibly subtle distinction.
And this choice elevates Harry's status, ensuring he feels fully accepted as a Weasley while simultaneously preserving the distinction of the Prewett lineage. It's a very subtle narrative way of acknowledging that the Prewetts, while part of the Weasley family, existed on a slightly different, more tragic line.
Okay, that takes care of the father, or one of the potential fathers, and neatly sidesteps the heirloom issue. But of course, 2 people are required to make 2 more people, even if they are identical.
Right.
So who is the birth mother? We need someone who was married to a Prewett, was in the Order, and died tragically in the First War.
The criteria for the mother is stringent. She needs to have been in the Order of the Phoenix, died during the same period as Fabian and Gideon, and ideally for the red hair to be explained.
She should have had red hair.
She should have had red hair. And the missing piece of the puzzle, according to the textual analysis, is Marlene McKinnon.
Marlene McKinnon.
She fits the profile perfectly. First, she reportedly had red hair, a detail that is confirmed by external supplementary material, but strongly suggested by the red hair of the twins.
Okay.
Second, and crucially, she was a fierce member of the original Order of the Phoenix. She is mentioned sparingly, only 4 times throughout the entire series, but always with profound reverence.
She is a name we hear but rarely see, which makes her perfect for a deep dive investigation like this.
Exactly. Hagrid mentions her when talking about Voldemort's earliest victim. He said he killed some of the best witches and wizards of the age, listing the McKinnon, the Bone.
And Sirius.
Yes, Sirius, deeply mourning the sheer scope of the losses of the First War, later specifically mentions crying all evening when he heard the news about the McKinnon. This establishes the profound emotional weight of her death on the Order.
This brings up a linguistic detail, doesn't it? Both Hagrid and Sirius refer to the McKinnon.
Plural, yes, which often suggests an entire family unit or a couple.
What?
But if you recall, Hagrid also referred to Prewett, which we know as Prewett, in the plural when he clearly meant the sibling, Fabian and Gideon, who died together.
Ah, so it's a pattern.
This suggests that the same may be true for the McKinnon, that Death Eaters systematically wiped out a whole family of McKinnon siblings.
The source material suggests a potential connection then, likely a marriage, between a Prewett Fabian or Gideon and a McKinnon Marlene or one of her siblings.
And if both parents died, the twins would be doubly orphaned.
Wow.
And to provide a deep cut into the literary evidence, the textual history itself supports this idea of a wide-ranging McKinnon tragedy. Early drafts of Philosopher's Stone actually included two other McKinnon,
Really?
Elizabeth and Angus, who were later dropped from the published story entirely.
That's a fascinating insight. The fact that the author originally conceived of the McKinnons as a larger family unit that was wiped out supports the idea of a family tragedy that left orphans behind.
Which makes Marlene McKinnon, or one of her McKinnon siblings who married a Prewett, a highly plausible candidate for the twins' birth mother.
So if we synthesize this, the tragic implication is truly staggering. If this theory holds, Voldemort disrupted and separated 4 of the key young characters from their birth.
All due to the parents' involvement in the Order of the Phoenix.
Harry, Neville, Fred.
And the common thread is not just that they were all orphaned by the First Wizarding War, but that their parents were on the front lines, fighting side by side with Arthur and Molly Weasley.
This transforms the identity of the Weasley twins from mere comic relief into profound symbols of the war's hidden cost.
And this dark shared origin adds a huge new layer to the relationship between the twins and Harry, potentially explaining why they have such a special kinship and are so protective of him from the start.
They're all, in a sense, Molly's war orphans.
Exactly.
It ties the whole found family theme together through shared trauma. We've established the linguistic slips, the thematic foundation of wartime adoption, and we've identified the potential Prewett-McKinnon parent. But we have saved the most powerful and specific piece of textual evidence for last.
This is the one.
This is the moment where the fun theoretical exercise stops being a thought experiment and becomes something truly devastating, something that links past loss directly to present tragedy.
It ties Fabian, Fred, and Percy together through a single Death Eater, Augustus Rookwood.
This is where the emotional narrative just explodes. So let's confirm the links we already established. We know Fabian Prewett, the proposed birth father, was killed by 5 Death Eaters. The text confirms that Anton Dolohov was one of them.
And critically, the other named Death Eater cited in the books as involved in the Prewett deaths is Augustus Rookwood.
So Rookwood is confirmed as one of the killer's supposed adopted father. Now, we fast forward dramatically to the Battle of Hogwarts. Years later, the war has come home, literally, to the school.
We're in the thick of the final battle. The text describes absolute chaos, explosions, and spells flying everywhere.
And Fred, who has just reconciled with his estranged brother Percy moments,
Genuinely, wonderfully laughing at a joke Percy just made about being a stickler.
And that is the heartbreaking, cruel detail. Fred dies mid-laughter, taken out by an exploding hallway wall. It's an anticlimactic, senseless tragedy in the midst of massive conflict.
The description of Fred's death is brutal in its sudden, but immediately after this shocking moment, we see Percy's reaction. Percy has just lost his brother, or adopted brother, and his grief is instant, powerful, specifically targeted.
We have to zoom in on Percy's action right now. He is shattered. The text says he lets out a bull-like roar.
That is not the sound of the uptight, rule-following Percy we knew.
No, that is pure primal rage. And he sprints off, targeting one specific person, running backward and forward among the fighting friends and foes. The text names him direct. Who is he?
Rookwood.
Augustus Rookwood.
This is not generalized battle fury. If Fred's death was caused by an exploding wall, Percy could have gone after any random Death Eater. But in that moment, in the immediate wake of losing Fred,
he targets the man who killed his adopted father figure, Fabian Prewett, during the First War.
The interpretation here, according to the theory, is shattering and gives immediate depth to Percy's rage. He is not just mourning his brother, he is fighting a generational grudge against the man who dismantled his family, not once, but twice over.
If the theory is true, this connects the past war directly to the present loss, making the adoption theory the linchpin of one of the most emotional moments in the entire series. It transforms Percy's character arc. He isn't just fighting for the Ministry or for Hogwarts. He is fighting for his lost family, biological brother, adopted brother, and his adopted father.
It makes the entire scene far more meaningful, tragic, and deeply personal.
And consider the dramatic weight this adds when they were war orphans who lost their birth parents to Rookwood and Dolohov.
They were taken in by a family of boundless love. And then Fred is killed by the same generational violence, by a man directly linked to his parents' tragedy.
It's a cyclical, devastating echo of the war's never-ending costs.
This elevates Fred and George beyond just comic. They become symbols of the resilience needed to survive persistent generational trauma.
And circling back to that shared origin, the loss of birth parents, same war, and potentially even the same death, this provides a compelling reason for the special bond Harry.
Yes, they are kindred spirits, united by the tragedy of the First War and the love of the Weasley. Maybe this shared experience of being war orphans, taken in by Molly and Arthur, is why Fred and George had a unique, protective kinship with Harry from the start.
They recognized a fellow traveler.
They did.
And this kinship is symbolized by the ultimate Weasley gift to Harry.
The Marauder's Map.
The Marauder's Map.
A fitting conclusion to this circle of found family and shared mischief. The map belonged to a previous generation of fiercely loyal friends, the Marauders, who adopted a war orphan into their group, Sirius, and protected one of their own who had a secret, Lupin.
And the twins passed this symbol of chosen protective kinship to Harry, the ultimate war.
Delivered with the playful phrase, mischief managed. It's the ultimate statement of acceptance.
Wow. We've really walked the distance here, haven't we?
We have.
We started with a joke, the idea of red-haired Weasleys being adopted, and followed the narrative threads.
We've seen the initial shock of Molly's prefect slip, which demonstrated a strange internal distinction between biological and chosen lineage accomplishment.
We looked at the FG name coincidence that memorializes the tragically powerful Prewett.
We analyzed the thematic connection of Fabian's watch being passed to the chosen son, Harry, reinforcing the idea that Molly honored Harry's adopted status with a Prewett heirloom.
And we identified red-haired Marlene McKinnon as a possible birth mother, linking the Weasley twins to another Order family tragically wiped out.
And the whole thing culminates in that truly devastating connection where Percy's immediate, singular, bull-like roar is targeted at Rook, linking the death of his adopted father figure to the death of his adopted brother.
It is an extraordinary convergence of evidence.
It really is.
Now, let's be clear. We are not saying this firmed canon, but when you pull all these threads together, the behavioral slips, the thematic consistency, the names, and the Rookwood connection, it creates a deeply compelling picture.
A narrative layer that adds profound depth to the entire Weasley dynamic, even if it was unintentional on the author's part.
The key takeaway, regardless of whether this theory is canon or not, is that it reinforces the novel's central, most powerful theme.
At the very core of this story is deep themes of family, love, and acceptance.
Biology, lineage, and blood purity, the obsessions of Voldemort, are ultimately secondary to the human capacity for overwhelming love.
Fred and George, in this light, become profound symbols that lineage means nothing. They're adopted into a family of overwhelming love, and that chosen love is what ultimately defines their Weasley identity.
It gives them the strength, courage, and sheer joy that permeates their lives. They are chosen.
And they are loved fiercely.
This story, which began with a joke about whether the twins were related, ended up being so much more devastating and meaningful than we ever expected.
It really did.
The profound insight here isn't just about identifying birth parents. It's about seeing how war, while tearing apart biological ties, simultaneously forces the creation of new, fierce, and unbreakable bonds of chosen families.
So we encourage you to consider that. When you look at the found families in your own life, your closest friends, mentors, or adoptive figures, what shared unspoken history or common trauma might bind them together, and what seemingly insignificant line of dialogue might reveal the hidden emotional truth about the people you love most.